Hello and welcome to our third official mobile moment. Today I have Brandon Pasley joining me and Nick Ross, our project manager. Today we're going to be covering topics around testing in the mobile environment and kind of what we've seen as far as trends and execution goes over the last couple of years testing in mobile. So just a loose conversation with Nick, who really runs that practice within VOKAL, and just getting some knowledge out of his head and into the community. So we'll start off just kind of grilling Nick here, if you don't mind, Nick.
All right, sure. Yeah, thanks.
I think a good place to start is really talking about kind of the challenges in mobile. Mobile's definitely a very different environment from, I think, what a lot of technology people are used to, especially just typical website creation. Mobile's very, very different, so maybe jump into kind of some challenges.
Definitely. That's a great point. Mobile has some challenges that are unique and specific to that space, and you know it's important to recognize those challenges, and we can talk about a couple different ways to overcome them. So basically, you're dealing with a device that's very limited in both terms of the screen size, what you can actually design and display on the device, and then also in terms of general processing power and storage as well, which can pose issues. Connectivity is a major issue with mobile and is something that's very unique to that space. You can lose and regain a connection 20 times within the period of a minute or so on a mobile device, and understanding that challenge and coming up with ways of dealing with that is very important.
I think that's one of the biggest ones is the connection issue with mobile. We never know what type of connection. Yeah, 3G, Edge, Wi-Fi. You never really know.
Mm-hmm. Sure, definitely, and that is one of the challenges that we face. Is how do you account for having a connection on Wi-Fi 1 minute and then being on 3G the next, and then having no connection and then going back to Edge. How do you deal with that? And the answer to really, that challenge and all the challenges really that you face with mobile is testing. Most people know the more that you test, the more that the risk associated with your projects tend to go down. So there's a couple different basic types of testing that you can do, and we can kind of dive into those a little bit. Some of the things that most people use in terms of kind of general types of testing are white box testing and black box testing. White box testing just implies having some knowledge of how the code works, and it's usually done by an engineer and people with programming knowledge. So examples of white box testing could be as simple as doing a code review, where you actually literally look at the lines of code of the application with a team of engineers and look for potential problems that way. Another form of white box testing is unit tests, where you're just basically testing very small portions of the code to make sure that they're working as they should be.
So taking those strategies, Nick, just at a high level, can you articulate what is VOKAL's process? How do we approach testing, and how do we execute it for any given project?
Sure. Well, just to kind of speak to that point a little bit, we do use white box testing primarily during development and while that's happening.
And what do we do before development?
Well, before development, it really comes down to understanding the project and understanding what the requirements are. And those essentially become the foundation of your test cases.
Sure.
You have to understand what was supposed to be built in the first place in order to understand if it's working properly. So that kind of segues a little bit into black box testing or behavioral testing, which is essentially looking at the behavior of the application as a end user would. The reason it's called black box is you don't have to be an engineer or a programmer to be able to do black box testing. You're simply using the app as any user would, and you have no idea what's going on under the hood inside the code itself. So that's why it's a black box. It's kind of a mystery as to what's happening behind the scenes.
So what does a typical kind of process for the behavioral testing look like? Sort of like test plans,
Sure.
How does someone kind of run through that?
Yeah, exactly. basically we write scripts or test cases for specific things that we're looking at, and it's matching up what the app is doing versus what it's supposed to be doing. So for example, if you wanted to test a login screen on an application, we would just write out the steps needed to, execute a simple login process, and along with what the desired result is supposed to be. So the testers understand, if they log in and it fails, that they're supposed to see an error message with specific copy, that they have something to match up the behavior to actually what is supposed to happen.
So Nick, you run our testing initiative here at VOKAL, and you manage our QA team that we have in the dev pit.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us, what tools have you introduced to the team or brought into the process that have really helped you guys tighten things up?
Sure. Well, a very important tool that we use is Lighthouse, which is just a basic ticketing system. So being able to document the issues that you've seen is very important, not only so you can resolve them, but so you have a history of issues that your app has faced.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to track that over time is very important. We also use Pivotal Tracker, which is how we organize our development efforts, and we have Lighthouse integrated into Pivotal Tracker. So when a new bug is entered into Lighthouse, the ticketing system, it can be carried over into Pivotal Tracker and assigned to a specific developer to resolve.
Sure.
Yeah, as well as some automated testing, being able to have nightly builds, nightly runs of making sure those outputs, more actual automated scripts rather than having someone go through and test it. We can make that process a lot faster with automation.
Sure, and that actually ties into a whole other thing that we do here, which is our continuous integration testing. So at the end of every night, we actually build all of our projects automatically using Hudson, our build server, and in a lot of cases, Hudson will then trigger our automated scripts to be run against those new builds. So when we walk in the next morning, if there is an issue or a regression of some sense, we'll know the next morning, within 24 hours of that issue ever cropping up.
And I believe we also have Hudson integrated with Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very important that
bugs are social.
It tweets if
yeah, so
pass or fail.
Hey, that's a great point. Yeah, we get notified via Twitter immediately if a build fails or if test cases aren't working out correctly.
Well, so that's a lot of great information on testing. Testing's, a different kind of beast in mobile, and it's something that I know Nick and the QA team we have here at VOKAL works tirelessly at exploiting new opportunities, new testing methodologies, and trying new things in the space to see what works. So great information today, Nick. I thought that the topic was very fitting. As we continue to see more and more fragmentation in this space and lack of understanding of where it all goes in the future, it's important that today we can understand how we can provide the most integrity behind these projects. And I really trust Nick and the team and the practices that they've put in place, and I can say it's really paid off for our team. So hopefully we've shined some good information for our audience today to start implementing this testing within their own environments. If you have any questions, shoot us a message via our website. Nick and Brandon, as always, thank you for sharing the mobile moment with me today, and
Thank you.
And with Chuck.
And also, the mobile moments are now being shot on the iPhone 4S, so we can see how if the HD, I think 8 megapixel video, if it actually pays off or not.
Let us know.
So that'll be.
Thanks for joining in.